Hi, folks. This is Mountain Man coming to you from parts unknown. I am sorry I'm late. I was fiddling for a half an hour with my screen and live stream, and I had to go to the fallback streaming. So I don't know what the problem is. Maybe it'll get worked out, and I apologize to my Rumble crowd. I'll have to upload this video afterwards, but I hope you all are doing well. So what I got in my thumbnail, and it's just as well because there's some things I wanted to discuss uh, rather than go through articles, which I amassed quite a few items tonight, but was unable to get things working properly. Screen freeze and different problems. So we'll have to see what's going on with that. But anyway, I've got on my thumbnail that conspiracy, no limitations. What does that mean? It means that there's no statute of limitations. We're going to talk about that. Adam Schiff was at a hearing and looked like he was doing something in his pants. So, yeah, things are going to get hot with that. Things are getting hot with a lot of things. And then we had an Obama judge got flipped like a pancake. Her ruling got flipped in the blink of an eye today, picking on Greg Bovino, a man who's got a job to do, and she's trying to screw him up. And Trump went to Asia, a triumphant visit. He got a crown from the Korean president. Now, I don't say he didn't put South Korean. He just said Korean president. Because, he's a Kang. Donald Trump, be the Kang. So anyway, KNS Cleanup, how are you doing? Linda Marie, nice to see you. Robin, all right, nice to see you. Bruce, Mac, nice to see you, Mac, been a while. Elva, Linda Marie's here, says it sounds good tonight. That's good. That's the main thing, right? Hi, Darla. Wayne's here. Wayne, I want to thank you for going to buy me a coffee the other night. I do appreciate it. And Mike and Bev also kicking in again. So this is the last week of the month I did not get skunked. Miss Bendersue, nice to see you. Let's go. Lunatic Judge, right? Wrong again. Elva, nice to see you all. So anyway, I was watching the attorney Andrew Branca on the Andrew Branca show, and oh God, he had the laborious chore of reading the transcript from this dizzy judge who was treating Greg Bovino like he was some kind of a reform school student that was being held in what do they call that? I was put there enough, I ought to remember it. What was it when detention? Yeah, you're in detention and you got to sit there and listen to the teacher tell you what a screwball you are and a troublemaker. And I didn't get there put there much, like I don't know, 50 times. But anyway, and it was obnoxious as she was condescending. Her rulings were idiotic. Her instructions to Border Patrol were ridiculous. And she's embarrassing the court. She is an embarrassment to the court. A lot of these lefty liberal judges are an embarrassment. And so I finished watching that. I was putting my studio together with all these videotapes, all these news articles. You see on my thumbnail picture, I got Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's still here. I put it still here, but I shouldn't put he's still here, but I did. And I also put also seditious conspiracy. And hey, what that judge was doing, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion, which I'm entitled to say my opinion, right? That she's assisting in hampering law enforcement, hampering the federal government, in performing their duties and enforcing the law. She's part of it. And I do hope that they have some communications. That is the thing that makes it difficult when you're going through these intricate webs and you're dealing with these conditioned individuals who have insidiously gotten into our system. They don't need spoken rules. They know the game plan. They know the goal. All it takes is less than a wink and a nod, and they're off to the races. So it's kind of hard for some of them, I guess, to find a hard and fast connection with a overall conspiracy, but not that hard. They'll get it, you know. The deeds of the hand of one is equal to the hands of all in a conspiracy. Hi, Rebecca. Todd, how are you? Angela said Trump ordered Secretary to test our nuclear weapons. All right. Yeah, that's right. We got to keep on our toes. Hi, Cole. How you doing? It's hard. KNS said, saying hi to Miss Mindersue. Yeah, we all say hi to Miss Mindersue. So, the mainstream media does not want to report on stuff like that because they're still trying to revive the political cadaver known as the Russia hoax, But any tensions between Putin and Trump, they want to downplay because they want to try to bring that corpse back. And I had a good video with Harry Enton, and Harry Enton did a couple of videos. Maybe I'll play them tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe I'll do an extra long broadcast tomorrow, or whenever I got a better signal. So, but Harry Enton he did two videos. I had two video clips. One was showing how the Republicans in Congress were not suffering as far as polling, considering this shutdown, even with the EBT cards. Their approval rating's actually gone up. And he did another poll on climate change. And how many people think it is a concern or a serious concern? And the numbers had retreated well below 50%. But back in the 80s, they were about 35% of wackos running around talking about climate, global. I think then it was still global warming. It might have been global cooling. I don't know. But then spiked up after Al Gore's boogeyman tour of our school system with his phony book, Earth Has a Fever, Earth in the Balance, and our school systems, our federal government paid him and his lunatic production bunch millions of dollars to show that propaganda to every student in the nation. So it spiked. And during the Obama administration, I think it got 46% of people were like, I'm worried about global warming. That was the peak. Now they're down 40%, maybe 39, 41, somewhere in there. So it's dropped. But the key number to me that I want to show you all that video was that people who think climate change is a very serious issue, guess what the percentage was? People who think it's a serious issue Hi, Ann. Trouble with your chat? Oh, okay. All right, you're in now. Ha ha. Saying hi to everybody. That's good. Uh, what do you think the percentage was of people? Hi, Rebecca. What's the percentage of people that think in this country think that climate change is a very serious issue? And then I'll tell you why I think that figure is important, very important. Wanda said 10%. Miss Mendersue said 34%. And you know, in the ones that were people saying they were concerned about it, a lot of them are just saying, you know, yes, because everybody else is saying yes. Linda Marie said 45. Well, I'll tell you what. What's the best way for me to ask this? What I'll do is I'll just tell you the number. And then I'll ask you another question. You'll have to guess that for yourself. But what Harry Anton came up with, KNS said 12%. What Harry Anton came up with, people that thought it was a serious issue, 2%. 2% of the people in this country think climate change is a very serious issue. On top of that, I had video of leftist influencers who were saying the most vulgar, gross things, sprinkled with threats and violence. I wanted to show you all. And I wanted to remind you that the majority of people running this country, the majority of people in supervisory positions in education are part of that 2%. And the people who are putting up those vile videos call themselves influencers, calling Trump a dictator and a Yahtzee, and all of his supporters, they're part of that 2%. Yeah, thank goodness Canaan said, but the good part, it's only 2%. But the bad part is the majority of that 2% is entrenched in our government, state, local, and federal government. They're the ones who cook up this crap of outlawing gas stoves in New York, really around the country if they could. No, you can't have any fireplaces built in your house. If you have a fireplace already, you got to go jump through a bunch of hoops to have it inspected, or block it off, or raise your insurance rates, because you can't burn wood, because these people are insane. I had a video clip where Air Force One flew over Mount Fuji. Is it? That's a big damn volcano. It's got a hole in the top of it. Who the hell were they blaming when that thing popped off? Was that climate change? Yeah, I just found a lot of coincidences in the last couple of days. Bill Gates pops out of the woodwork and says climate change isn't that bad. I had a news thing to show you all. You know, in a way, this is better. At least I can keep a stream of consciousness going without having to I can tell you the things that I've noticed. And Then Trump put out a truth about who? About Bill Gates. And I said, well, ain't that something? Then something pops up from Congress, a letter to the Gates Foundation, a big long letter that they're being investigated for IRS violations and for abusing their 501c3 nonprofit status. So things are moving against these big names, these people that want us to eat bugs. Okay? Bill Gates, the man who said we can control the population, reduce the threat of overpopulation. How? Through pokes in the arm. That guy who regrets his friendship with Epstein and who's working hand in glove with Dr. Fauci, who's buying up farmland, whose home state of Washington is where the first outbreak ever occurred. Remember that, folks? The same day. Outbreak started the same day they filed impeachment papers against Trump for first impeachment. So I know all these things. You all know these things. Wouldn't any reasonable person who knows these things have a concern? So we'll talk about that more, but the task at hand right now one of many tasks, but one of the most high profile tasks at hand is removing illegal immigrants. Something I can freely say now, unless, of course, I get someone reviewing my videos who has a nose ring and skinny jeans, purple hair, and a bad complexion, and a body mass index equal to the Pillsbury Doughboy. Hopefully that won't happen. But what we have is judges actively subverting, hindering, hampering, interfering under the cloak of judicial rulings. They're bringing disrepute to the court. But in our frustration, in the fog of frustration, I have to think to myself, well, are we drawing them out? Because they're all deep state actors. And like I said, they don't need daily instruction. They know what to do. They've been trained to destroy our system. And that's exactly what they're doing. So they're participating in this illegal concept I consider to be an illegal construct, a illegal use of our judicial system, lawfare, to achieve a political end or to defeat the purpose of a law, the spirit of a law, through delays, delay tactics, what they used to call pettifogging. I'll have to look in my book that I got. Bill Bennett wrote a book, three books, and he addressed the terminology of pettifogging. And the court frowns. I don't think you're allowed to use that term in court. That's how much it makes them mad, pointing out a fact that they're just screwing around, not really going along with the spirit of the law or the spirit of the document as far as the Constitution's concerned. Hi, Pappy Two Bears Sherry's here. Who did I miss? Boy, I got a little screen to see my chats in, but it's okay because I go through them. So this judge that called Greg Bonvino, I got a good picture of him I wanted to show y'all too. I was going to use him on my thumbnail. Just doing my job, ma'am. But I settled for Kilmar Abrego Garcia. What's going on with Kilmar? I think he's got to go by the 31st. So it really doesn't matter to Kilmar that he won't be getting any EBT because he won't be here anyway. But then again, we've heard that before. For months and months and months, over one criminal illegal alien member of a terrorist gang organization, taking us months and months and months. I believe that's Judge Zenas. Of course, she had to put on a show in her courtroom today. I guess it was today or maybe yesterday afternoon. She just wanted to make sure that he's not going to be deported to the African nation of Liberia against her court orders. So now they're attempting to reduce law enforcement as far as immigration. Reduce them to what, a travel agency? Where do you want to go, Mr. Abrego Garcia? So anyway, I guess he might go to the Etruria or wherever it was I put on that one thumbnail. It will be interesting to see. But yes, he's still in this country. And yes, Judge Zenas and her ilk, and I'll go as far to say her co-conspirators, are burning the midnight oil, thinking how to delay or prevent his removal from the country before October 31st. They've got roughly 48 hours. Maybe it's November 1st. I don't know. 72 hours. I don't know. But you can bet they are conniving and colluding on some way to keep him here. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. But Greg Bonvino, he threw a gas canister. This Judge Sherry, I forget her name, calls him in to detention. And he's got to give a book report. But she does all the talking in the courtroom. The transcript, before he even got to say a word, was 13 pages of her pontificating about the methods that ICE has been using. And he handled it very well, and I think that frustrated her. I think she tried to provoke him, certainly tried to belittle him, certainly tried to act like the queen bee in such a way as to get a reaction. And it didn't work. And she put these onerous requirements. Oh, by the way, as been pointed out many times, she's Canadian born. Her parents are Jamaican. Okay. Both parents emigrated to Canada You know, we're on the outs with Canada right now, and they know it too. But anyway, they immigrated to Canada, and then when little Sherry turned 15, uh, she became an American citizen. I don't know how old she is. Obama appointed her. So that had to be at least 10 years ago. So she becomes an American citizen as a teenager, and she's in very short time sitting on the federal bench. So she's been a judge since the Obama administration. I would have to see how old she was when she became a judge. I mean, talk about fast tracking. You don't fast track somebody like that unless they got some serious Marxist-Leninist credentials. Somebody that's been groomed, taught, had the ideology pounded in their head. Yeah, make them a judge. So no, we don't have it's obvious we don't have enough American-born people that are smart enough to be a judge. We have to have someone with the Jamaican upbringing, cultural upbringing, and I wonder how many citizenships she has. So anyway, so she said, well, this was today around noon. The hearing started, I think. I don't know when he got out of there finally, but I think it was around 2 o'clock or something like that. She told him, you got to start coming in at 6 o'clock every night and give me reports. And everybody's got to wear body cams and everybody got to do this. And about 15 minutes before I tried to get live, notification comes out that she's been overturned by the appeals court. That is rare. That is quick. Appeals court blocks order requiring Chief of Border Patrol Greg Bonvino to meet with Judge Daley on Chicago immigration crackdown. So, yeah. An appeals court has temporarily paused. I should have seen who wrote that article. Temporarily paused. A federal judge's order requiring your schedule, by the same thing they repeat over and over again. And she wanted me to give updates on immigration enforcement activity in Chicago under the Trump administration's Operation Midway Blitz. Her name's Sarah Ellis. That's her name, Sarah Ellis. Well, ain't no temporarily pause to it. It's in the trash barrel. I guess they could say temporarily pause because they're going to hold hearings on it. But nobody's going to. Hi, Greg. How you doing? Hi, Google account. How you doing? Wanda. Nice to see you. Tank. Nice to see you too. Who all's here? All right. So anyway, so she got kicked out real quick. And, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, we don't got to go through impeachment with these judges. We can get rid of them lawfully, and we can make a public spectacle out of it to boot. How can we do that? I'll tell you how. Since she's big on ordering people to be there or else and all this kind of stuff, the lower courts, every one of them is created by Congress, overseen by Congress. The only court that the Constitution requires is the Supreme Court. Any such inferior courts can, the Constitution gives Congress the power to create and place whatever districts, whatever subject matter, jurisdictional matter, as Congress sees fit. They're creations of Congress. They're not mandated by the Constitution. Judge Sherry, the Judicial Committee should subpoena her. Subpoena her for a hearing. We want to know why we should not consider your actions as interfering with law enforcement. And we want to know why you got flipped like a flapjack with your ruling. Do you have an understanding of the law? We want to subpoena you to testify before Congress because this is a serious issue and your behavior is exacerbating the situation. Your language, talking about, oh, children at a Halloween party were scared. Things like that. A combat veteran had a Border Patrol agent point a weapon at him and say, bang, you're dead. And he's afraid to go outside now, some combat veteran. If he's a veteran that understood his oath, he should know that he shouldn't be out there calling, impeding law enforcement, protesting. It's not protesting. They're hiding under the guise of protesting. Anybody out running around in the streets, blocking vehicles, is impeding law enforcement. So, yeah, I would subpoena her to come before Congress. You could make the time every day of the week to interrogate, pester, or whatever Mr. Bonvino, so you can make the time, get your rear end in front of Congress. Clear her docket. As to why we should, Congress, this would have to happen, I think, after the midterms. Maybe it could happen now. But since Congress has the power to create these courts and manage these courts, they have the power to say, we'll remove judges based on a vote of no confidence. A simple majority. We can remove a federal judge for bad behavior. Define bad behavior in the statute. What qualifies as bad behavior? Where you can be put up for a vote of no confidence and remove these lower court judges. You don't have to do an impeachment, which requires what, 2/3 of Congress? I don't know. I'm just looking at the chats. So, yeah, have a simple majority to remove these judges that are causing problems. But anyway, one thing that I wanted to talk about, I had a picture of somebody named Rudolph Hess. How many of you all know about Rudolf Hess? Rudolf Hess was a high-ranking Yahtzee during the Adolf party rule, the Third Reich. And he ended up going to taking a clandestine flight over to Scotland to try to negotiate an end to the war. And he got captured. And he never saw the freedom again. And this was about a month before Operation Barbarossa. They had not engaged in war with Russia yet. Barbarossa was the invasion of Poland and started World War II. So anyway, he lived to be 93 years old. He died, I believe, in 1987 or 1988 in Spandau prison. He was the only prisoner there. And the only reason he didn't get the same treatment as the other Nuremberg defendants was because he was nuts. Or so the majority of the Allies thought. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because I was going through a number of different posts on CUE. And one of the things I discussed some weeks back were when we heard the terms peace through strength, it said, now comes the pain. Okay. Well, today, Trump gave a speech in Asia, and above his head was peace through strength. He also, in one of his speeches, which a clip was put on Ruski television along with Truth Social and other places, where Trump was saying, if we don't have a United States as a country, we won't have any countries. And the Russian media was kind of like not really understanding that. Oh, America thinks if they're the only country in the world, if they don't make it, there won't be any other countries. Well, his point is there won't be any countries because they'll be engulfed in a new world order, which their desire is borderless. Okay, borderless mixing of the populations with the end goal to be chaos and lowering the population and things like that, destroying cultures, religion. So we know that. And then later on Truth Social, Trump posted a picture of him, a black and white picture of him walking with a suit and tie, and above it said peace through strength. So I said, and then came all this stuff about Bill Gates, the letter about him being investigated, the climate change, changing his position there, his past comments about reducing the population. There's only one way I know to reduce the population. Okay. And it ain't good. So that stuff I was going to show all this stuff to you. And it came across my mind about the post where they said, if people knew everything that was going on, that we had to keep a large percentage of everything, could only let so much out, because if people knew everything, 90% of the population would need psychiatric care. You remember that, folks? Because I'm doing the weave, remember? I'm doing the weave. Because I could do that too. Because I used to be really smart before my brain dried up. I used to be smart like Trump. But anyway, how many of you all remember that post? Hi, Yvonne. That if people knew 90% of the population would need psychiatric care. It's so evil and horrifying. And we're thinking, wow, of course we had counter psyop people going into the boards with really grotesque things. And of course, got to blame the JEWs. Getting people to repeat things that were so crazy to discredit the Q movement. But I remember from reading The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich and other books that I read on Nuremberg and Adolf's autobiography. I mean, what is it when somebody else writes your biography? I've got that. It's a two-volume tome. But anyway, I remember the story that I read about 40 years ago. 40 years ago, probably. There was a psychiatrist who was analyzing all the top men in the Nuremberg trials. Keitel, Field Marshal Keitel, Jodl, Admiral Raeder, Hermann Göring. You can go down the line. You know the ones that were hanged that night. I think it was, I forget how many it was. Göring, of course, he beat the executioner. He took a cyanide pill. But he was doing a psychoanalysis of them. And he found out that they all had fairly high IQs. Göring had a very high IQ. Heydrich, who's the one I did the story on that was the newspaper man, head propagandist? I forget. I've got his name. But anyway, did you know that psychiatrist committed you-know-what-acide himself? This was back in the 1950s, and he needed psychiatric care himself. He may have been able to prevent his own demise. What did he do? He would talk with people about his findings of these individuals. And he would write to his friends. He put out an opinion paper as to what characteristics all these people had who committed crimes against humanity on a horrific scale beyond anything the modern world had ever seen. And it drove him mad. His son recalled that during an animated discussion, he got very upset and ran up the steps of the house, came back to the top of the steps, and had a bottle of cyanide. He said, I'm going to drink this and I'm going to end my life right now. And they stood and looked at him in shock. And this is the psychiatrist who interviewed the Nuremberg prisoners, the top Nazis. And he drank poison and he died. What drove him mad? And of course, it made me think of the post I was just talking about earlier, that 90% of us would need psychiatric care if we knew the truth. Well, his finding was that there wasn't anything wrong or out of the ordinary with the condemned at Nuremberg. He found out that they could have been your neighbor. They could have been somebody who ran for office. Ambitious, smart, ambitious people, but not out of the ordinary. That you could find this complex of people who have a desire to be successful, powerful, look down on certain groups, and to achieve success and power, they would go to any lengths to get it. And then you could find that in every society, in every nation on the face of the earth, you would find people like that. And it drove him mad. It was kind of like, I've seen the enemy and he is us. So I found that to be very interesting. And I'm going to research it a little more. I wasn't really going to talk about it tonight to this extent. But that's why eternal vigilance is the price of freedom, and why our faith and our culture is so important. To defend against that segment of the society. You could say it's the Cain strain from Adam and Eve, the one who committed the first murder in Genesis. You could look at it in any philosophical way. But people can convince themselves that they're entitled to power, they deserve power, and that there are other people who don't deserve to live. Or if they do, that they're going to be subservient. And I don't think there's any genetic reason for it. because we've seen similar atrocities all over the globe in my parents' lifetime. In Asia, okay, you've seen people being wiped out in the Mao regime, Cambodia, Vietnam, in Asia. In Eurasia and in Eastern Europe, you saw it with Lenin, Trotsky, and Stalin. And in Eastern Europe, you saw it with Adolf and his buddies, right? In France, you saw it with the French Revolution, the Great Terror. It's a broken record of history. But it just so happened, and many of the things I mentioned were post-World War II, after Adolf. So after they were rightfully convicted, rightfully vilified, we successfully broadcast the horrors of that kind of mentality, open and notorious. After that, you had Stalin's horrors, Mao's horrors, Pol Pot after it. And they're barely talked about. Barely talked about. But to this day, Adolf and his crowd are being used to vilify MAGA and Trump. And half these kids running around doing that. I'm trying to let this little Sadie out. There she goes. She better not hang out with that gang member. She better come back. But anyway, can you imagine being a psychiatrist and looking in the eyes of some of these Nuremberg people like Goring? You know, I won't recount the grotesque things that happened. People responsible for that. I mean, the motivating impetus for these horrors, and realize that it could have been the guy next door. And he didn't live to see the things that happened afterwards that I just discussed. So I told you about Reagan in the 60s saying that they, who is he talking about? They. I'll have to get that video again. He said they already have in place what they need to take everything you own and make a slave of you. Ronald Reagan said that in the 1960s. How could they get away with doing that without violence? There would, as a matter of course and matter of fact, be people that resist. And it's like I said about the encouraging people to watch Dr. Zhivago. to watch Empire of the Sun. Because in both those movies, any resistance to an occupying force in Dr. Zhivago was the party. In Empire of the Sun, it was the emperor. You came to your house, there's a piece of paper on the door saying this is the property of the Bolshevik party or whatever. This is the property of the Emperor of Japan. If you don't like it, you get one in the back of the head. Okay? And Reagan in the 60s was wise enough to know that that's what he was saying. That's what he was referring to. So, I'm watching chats and I don't see a lot of response. Hi, Patricia. Thank you. I appreciate that. But people may think if they're listening to me, especially for the first time, that he's crazy. No, am I really? Am I really? But now, to weave back, tie it into what Donald Trump said in speech in Asia. Without America, there are no countries. And when you think in that way, and you look at it that way, you realize that we are very close. We are very vulnerable to a brutal takeover, eradication of rights, a slavery, which we're in now to an extent, all of us. You got to do this and you got to do that, or you're in big trouble. Name it. Name it. Everything's regulated. And you have to report everything. Like Greg Bonvino, but on a much higher scale. To arbitrary and capricious, ignorant, arrogant power, a bureaucracy, the voices of fools that have the power. And then I think what Trump said about a week ago, just out of the blue, give me liberty or give me death. Remember that, folks? Because the road we're on is not to liberty. If we follow the road of occasional cortex, if we follow the road of Zoran Mondani, freedom ain't at the end of that road. It's the power of the state. That's where that road leads. And that is the death of freedom. And if we're all wards of the state or slaves to the state, what the hell's the point of a country? These so-called leaders, they'll just coagulate into one governing body. Everybody's got to be treated the same. Nobody's an illegal. Namely, we don't have anything special or distinct about us. We're all the same. And we can have what they say we can have. We can do what they say we can do. And that ain't living. But that psychiatrist saw that attitude in people that have personality traits and levels of intelligence that you find all over the world. They had that attitude embedded in their psyche that they knew how to run things. And they knew who could stay and who's got to go. And they all desired to be in positions of power and live with great wealth. They thought a lot of themselves. Every damn one of them. And they expected everybody else to think a lot of them too. So that again brings me back to why God did not want Israel to have a king. These people are so ridiculous with the no kings protest. A person who was democratically elected, how the hell could he be a king? And the things they're pushing on with Zoran Mamdani and occasional Cortex and Bernie Sanders and all the other Marxists and communists is giving your freedom away to a state. The state is king. But why did God not want these Israelites to have a king? Well, because people swear allegiance to sovereigns. People identify with a king. Long live the king. People are forced to live under a king's edicts and rules, right? So if you've got a nation of millions of people who don't have a king and rely upon their own morality, their own societal structure, that value and respect their own freedom, value and respect their neighbor's freedom, those are millions of people that you've got to overcome. But if you get people to subject themselves to a king, all you got to do is corrupt one person, the king. And you got them all. Does that make sense? In a way, it's reflective of what the Japanese said after Pearl Harbor. We could never invade the U.S. because there's a gun behind every blade of grass. Well, as far as conquering people, it's the same thing. Your sense of freedom, your value of freedom, your understanding of freedom, personal liberty is your weapon. People let go of that and subject themselves to a king. They're spiritually disarmed. They're emotionally disarmed. If the king bows to an evil power, they bow to. So it's something to cogitate upon. And when you think about the 95% or 90% that would need psychiatric care if they knew the whole story, you have the attitudes of the Third Reich leaders. Replicated in people with the same type of morality, if you can call it that. The same moral perspective, I'll put it that way. They have the same moral perspective as Hermann Göring or Heinrich Himmler. And they're connected through technology worldwide. And they make a little pact in every country, on every continent around the world. And they get involved in finance, stocks, the economies of other nations. They know how to profit and get money, like with weapons production. Oh, you can lower the population plus make billions of dollars by starting a war. Any number of things. That's just one way. You can recruit followers. I'll call them followers, members, followers, whatever, by doing these do-gooder USAID programs or the Gates Foundation, take advantage of 501c laws and not have to pay any taxes, be eligible for government grants, which is basically my money, your parents' money, my parents' money, your children's money. Everybody's paying, they're paying taxes on the tax. So then these new members or followers are dependent. They'll never admit it. I got where I am because I'm a good person. I'm a smart person. No, you got where you're at because you're being used by higher powers that are this finagling money and putting it in your pocket to get your loyalty. Because what else can they do besides talk high-minded communist BS and be supported by the higher powers? Principalities in the spiritual realm. Yeah, it's true. I have a spirit. You have a spirit. We have the spirit of 1776. It's the spirit of liberty and freedom. And like John Adams said, our Constitution would only work for a nation of people that fear God and respect God. It wouldn't work for any other type of group of people. You know, God's the last thing on their mind. That's why they can't stand the Constitution. And in a way, I guess that was what God was trying to tell the Israelites. You don't need a king. If you live by the prophets, you live by Moses' law. Why do you need a king? And the only way that type of a society would work is under Moses' law, Mosaic law, because the other alternative is anarchy and death and murders and stealing and debauchery and degeneracy. You can't have a society like that. It's doomed to fail anyway. Oh, yeah, I know, Patricia. We've talked about the Titanic. This channel's been up for, I don't know, 4 years, maybe going on 5. So anyway, I think that psychiatrist, I don't know his background as far as his, he could have been an atheist. I don't know. I just read a little bit of his writings beyond the sterile analysis of these top figures. I don't know how strong of a faith he had, or if any faith. I don't know. I'm going to research him a little bit. But I think subconsciously, what entered his mind and drove him to suicide. Oh, I can't say that word. Don't put it in the chats, please. Was that he knew there was a lion roaming the earth, a hungry lion. And what these Yahtzee leaders had done was let themselves fall prey to satanic thought, which is to control, rule, conquer other people, certainly not live by the golden rule, do unto others. Certainly not when Christ said, love one another as I've loved you. They certainly didn't have that in their minds. So they were devoured spiritually by the lion. And I'm referring to where it said that Satan roams the earth like a hungry lion. And it scared him. He didn't see a hopeful end. I don't know. I'm just saying that if you can't anchor yourself in your faith and you realize there's a hungry lion out there, you realize that there's potential for evil in every society on a grand scale, and you don't have the strength of faith, I could see where one would want to cash in their chips and take cyanide and fall down the steps in front of his wife and kids. He did that. An eminent psychiatrist. So that's how important it is to have faith and to understand what the armor of God is and the meaning of the armor of God. That psychiatrist apparently, I mean, I can't say for sure, but if he would have had the armor of God on, he wouldn't have done that to himself. And if you'd have thought about the fact that millions of people resisting that kind of evil, gave their lives so we could live freely, and had respect for their sacrifice and the understanding of their sacrifice, and took comfort in knowing that there are people who will risk everything to protect our society and our way of life. You know, and when you get deep like this, and then you look out there, I listened to this judge, the transcript, where she's taking up Greg Bonvino's precious time, valuable time, hindering law enforcement by requiring him to physically be there, talk like she's on some kind of pedestal, pulpit. And at the same time, she's degrading our laws, our culture, causing economic hardship on citizens who are footing the bill. It's hard not to get enraged. But at least it would compel us to think of ways to evict these people from their positions, to get them to testify before Congress and everyone. What are you doing? She made a big deal of talking about her oath, how she took an oath to the Constitution. But the pomposity of Herman Goring got into her, under her robes and into her brain, and has blinded her. And she's one of hundreds of, I'm not kidding, hundreds of judges. The Biden administration, so-called Biden administration, ramrodded through 200 plus judges. And believe me, they were all analyzed, vetted before they were put on the bench. They're true believers. They're hardcore Marxists at their core. And they're sitting on a federal bench. And they've got to be defeated. They've got to be removed. Because this movement, this represented by Zoran Mondami and occasional Cortex, this movement in this country has got to be crushed and destroyed. I got in trouble a long time ago for using the term, for saying during an argument, not an argument, but as a discussion, somebody was trying to justify something they did or whatever. And I said, you know, you can't be half pregnant. It's just one of those things in life. You just can't be half of. You're either there or you're not there. And it's the same in this situation. We can't have half the judiciary believing in Marxist precepts. And the only way to get them out is to get them dead to rights, undermining the Constitution, violating the Constitution, on display as to what their true desires are, and get them out. And the American people need to understand. The only way is for people to wake up. So I was thinking also about the precipice. I mean, some of the most serious comments in the CUE, some of the most dramatic ones were about so many people need psychiatric care if they knew the truth. Also, that people won't change till they reach the precipice. And I've asked in the past, what do you think the precipice is going to be? Nuclear war, total destruction? Are we going to be on the edge of total destruction? Well, as of late, I've been thinking that there is a core group of people in this country and around the world that have already felt like we were on the precipice, have been worried and concerned for over a decade that this country, we were going to lose this country, that this, as they call it, great American experiment was going to fail. And that we would, as Ronald Reagan said, be plunged into 1,000 years of darkness. I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a large group of people who were already at the precipice. So now we're trying to get people to understand, as Ronald Reagan tried to in the 60s, to understand that all the pieces are in place for them to enslave us and to strip us of our rights and to defeat the Constitution, and we'll never see anything like it again for over 1,000 years. Well, this government shutdown, I think, is serving two purposes. One, I think it is baking a cake ordered by these criminals that have already been caught. We caught them all. And patriots are in control. I think they've been ordered to self-immolate. You know what that word means. Self-destruct. That's why you're seeing these poll numbers. That's why they are, in any other generation, it would have been political you-know-what aside to declare that you want to provide health care for illegal aliens, and you're going to withhold air traffic control payments, military, and food stamps. Any other time of our history, that would have been a guaranteed disaster for any politician that did that. Yet they're doing it. They're self-immolating. They're burning themselves up. I think that's part of their marching orders. But what it's also doing is bringing 44 million. Well, now I'll take that back. They say 44 million people are on food stamps. Some reports say 44 million Americans are on food stamps, 42 million. But wait a minute. We already know that probably close to half that are illegal aliens that shouldn't be getting any benefits for free. Well, everybody's got a different precipice, apparently. If I'm not getting food stamps and somebody says, oh, they're going to cut off food stamps, that's not a precipice for me. But it's a precipice for somebody that ain't going to have nothing to eat. And there are millions of Americans who are going to actually struggle to get food. Elderly people, disabled people that do rely on them. What are they seeing? That this so-called Democrat Party doesn't give a damn about you. They want to replace you with illegal aliens. You're going to get pushed to the precipice. And it stands to reason that if they have to double the amount of funds because of illegal aliens, that if they weren't there, you could be getting double the benefits. But yours got to be chopped in half or a third or whatever it is to spread it out to these people that shouldn't even be there. Maybe they'll start thinking that way for once. Instead of thinking, well, there's other people in this world that are rich and happy, and we should take from them and give to me and everybody else that's poor. No, wait a minute. No, we're going to get rid of people that shouldn't be here because politicians are behaving in a criminal manner to encourage an invasion of the country to replace you. They don't need your vote. Okay, if they can replace you. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are getting food stamps that are capable of working. A lot of people, millions of them sell their food stamps. They sell them. I had a video I was going to play tonight. People getting like $4,000 in food stamps. They go and sell their PIN number for $1,000, and the buyer gets $4,000 worth of food. Cash. That's how they get the PlayStation 2s I was talking about, or 2s, forget that. It's PlayStation 5s now. They might have a 6 out, I don't know. Xboxes, $70 games. How do they have all that? Now we know. How do they stay in cigarettes and booze? Now we know. But I told you all about the video I saw where, unfortunately, a young man with a YouTube channel got a tumor, a brain tumor, and he went on. It was not part of his video. I just noticed it. He was receiving during Trump's term. He qualified for food assistance because of his debilitating condition. He was terminal. He went a while. He went about a half a year, but he couldn't work. And it came in. I had a friend that was getting it. It was called Mom's Meals. It came in a box that was insulated. A week's worth of meals in a box, a huge box. And they had breakfast items like scrambled eggs with hash browns and sausage, right? Link sausage. And another breakfast was pancakes with patted sausage and something else. I don't know what. But anyway, then they had lunches and dinners. And that's the kind of things he was getting. And on the box, it had a picture of Trump waving at a crowd. And it was something called like America's Harvest or something like that. And there's a lady that does videos on EBT and HUD. I'll have to get her name too and show you all her videos so you can watch her videos. She was saying about 5 years ago that there wasn't going to be any more EBT cards, that people were going to have meals delivered to their house. And it was after I saw that, I saw this video of the young man getting the meals delivered to his house. It was a pilot program Trump started where you were getting nutritious food and a variety. And wouldn't it be something, to really go off on a tangent? All these states saying, "Oh, people are starving, you're not helping." Well, look out the window for your friendly neighborhood National Guardsmen delivering these America's Harvest emergency food boxes. And gee, that seemed to work so well. Maybe we'll start doing that instead of food stamps that can be sold on the black market. Oh yeah, we already won it. But what's got to happen, and people have to be awake for, and will happen, as if you saw the hearing with Adam Schiff, the one senator told him there's no statute of limitations on conspiracy. If you were in on the conspiracy at the 5-mile marker, you're in on it at the 10-mile marker. Well, he put a few more markers in between. Like he said, if you're in it at the 5-mile marker, you're in it at the 7-mile marker. And if you're in it at the 5-mile marker, you're still in it at the 10-mile marker. And he said, we're at the 10-mile marker. Which means Adam Schiff is going to go to trial. There's going to be a lot of people going on trial. They have to go on trial. And this country's got to be ready for it. You saw it, Debbie? With Adam Schiff? People are going to go to jail. They have to go to jail. We have to destroy. Well, Trump has said it many times. The Marxists. They have to be. They have to pay the price for what they've done. The criminality has to be exposed. They have to be punished. We have to have retribution. And this country's got to be at the point where the vast majority of citizens understand why and agree And we're all but there. We're not quite there yet. We got to get through these midterms, and we can't have any screw ups. But they are self-immolating. They are self-destructing with this government shutdown. But anyway, Patricia, you've been chatting up a storm, sweetheart. Ha ha ha! That's great. So anyway, yeah, if you missed the first part of it, just rewind it, go back. I just talking off the top of my head. I had all these stories that you hear from other creators and stuff. Let me see. Which I can go over tomorrow. A lot of them. If you all join me tomorrow, maybe I'll have better luck with my studio. So anyway, folks, I want to thank Wayne and Mike and Bev for helping out this last week of the month. I have a link in the description of Buy Me a Coffee. If anybody wants to help the channel out, Buy Me a Coffee Mountain Man. If you put that in, it'll help you go right to the site. But anyway, folks, I'm trying to see if there's anything in the chats that anybody wants to talk about for sure tonight. We'll have a big night tomorrow night because I got a lot of stuff on. Zelensky is being told over by people in Eastern Europe and Europe, you better come up with something peace-wise. Send everybody popcorn. Max said popcorn, yeah. Well, I tell you what, it would be something if Trump did come up with those America's Harvest meal boxes. If he had a press conference, I have met with Dr. Oz and Bobby Kennedy, and we have come up with a really super food groups and meal packages that we can deliver, and the National Guard can help with this tremendous hunger problem we have in our nation. And you get National Guard out there handing out those meal boxes, and Dr. Oz has looked at the ingredients and it's got my seal of approval. Dr. Oz, healthy, nutritional food. And right, Bobby? Yeah, Bobby Kennedy. Yeah, that's right. This stuff is great. And maybe that's what they'll start doing. Because I tell you what, if you're old and disabled, it's hard to cook. And you got something ready to go. So anyway, folks. Yeah, government cheese, Debbie, yeah. They used to sell that too back in the 60s. In the 1960s, they had government cheese and beans and peanut butter and rice, dried goods. You go down to the welfare office, and then I guess they didn't want to handle that stuff anymore. So they came up with the idea of food stamps. So the social workers didn't have to fool with a food pantry. So now they can just sit around and feel important and help illegal immigrants, and then they feel like they're helping the whole world. Hi, Bill. But anyway, folks, we'll see if I can get up tomorrow and put up some of these videos, and maybe I'll do a 2-hour or more broadcasts tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see how things go. But anyway, folks, once again, I want to thank you for spending your precious time with me. And remember, full armor of God, right? So you all have a great night. This is Mountain Man, over and out.